So we have seen character text splitter, right? So what it did, every 200 characters it tried to chunk, right? And all these parameters are user defined parameters, right? So you can experiment here. If the separator is present, that is 2 new lines is present within the chunk size of 200 characters, it will try to chunk there. This is what we learned in the character text splitter. Now let's see the next chunking method, that is recursive character text splitter, right? So inside this chunking methods demo, let me try to create another Python file and let's save it, recursive character text splitter demo. And now, like I said, in case if you did not install any of these packages, make sure you install LangChain and LangChain text splitter, right? And once you install, the next thing is we have to import them, import the packages. Here we are not using character text splitter, this is recursive character text splitter, right? So make sure you import recursive character text splitter from LangChain text splitters, right? So once you import the module from this package, the next step is, let's see how to implement this recursive character text splitting, right? So let's take the same input. So I'm copying from character text splitter demo, right? So I'm taking the same input document and let me just try to print recursive character text splitter example, and this is better for preserving context. So now let's use of this recursive character text splitter and split our input document, right? So inside recursive character text splitter, we have 4 parameters here. The first one is separators. Here we are giving separators as 2 new lines or 1 new line or period or space. And the chunk size is 150, chunk overlap is 30, and the length function is we are telling it to use len, right? So what we are telling to the recursive character text splitter, whenever there are 2 new lines or 1 new line or period or space, then you try to chunk there, and each chunk size is 150 characters and chunk overlap is 30, right? It will try to overlap 30 characters from previous chunk so that we can preserve the context. So that is the advantage of using this chunk overlap. And if you notice, what is the difference that you can identify between this character text splitter and recursive character text splitter, right? If you see here, inside character text splitter, you can only define one separator, right? Here we only define 2 new lines. Whereas in recursive character text splitter, we can define multiple separators. If you see, we defined 2 new lines, 1 new line, period and space, right? So inside character text splitter, we are able to define multiple separators. So that is one of the difference between character text splitter and recursive character text splitter, right? So what we are telling here, if the separators appear within the chunk size of 150, then it will forcefully do the chunk by the separator, even though we defined the chunk size as 150, right? We already know that. And once we get the splitter, the next thing is we have to call split text method, so we will get the chunks, and we know this chunks is of type list, right? So we got list of chunks, and now let's try to loop in so we can print each chunk inside the chunks list. So what we are doing here, we are trying to loop in this chunks list and we are trying to print chunk 1, what is the value, chunk 2, what is the value, right? And save it. Now let me run this file. So if you see, this is where we ran, right? Recursive character text splitter example, this is better for preserving context. So if you notice, how did we divide? Let me take you to the input document. So this is our input document, and if you see, we gave our separators as 2 new lines or 1 new line or space or period, right? So that is how it will try to chunk, right? So it chunked one here and the other one here because there is a period, right? And then from here till the end of this sentence, and then the 4th chunk is still here and 5th chunk is still here, and then the 6th chunk is till here, and then the next chunk 7th, right, till neural networks, and so on. So it created a total of 12 chunks by using these separators, right? So that is how you can use recursive character text splitter, and by using recursive character text splitter you can define multiple separators. So that is the advantage of using recursive character text splitter. And if you notice, we already used this recursive character text splitter inside our RAG application, right? So let me quickly open this RAG demo file, and here you can see Recursive Character Text Splitter, and we are using the same separators, right? And this is our input document before, right? So what we did here, first we installed all the required packages. This is not required to install every time. So once you install here, you don't have to install again here, right? But make sure you install these required packages in case if you don't already. We have to import Recursive Character Text Splitter module from LangChain Text Splitters package. And this is our input document. And here we are trying to just print this line. And what we are doing here, we are using Recursive Character Text Splitter. And we have these 4 parameters. The first one is to define the separators. Here we can define multiple separators, and the chunk size is 150. So we are telling it to divide by 150 characters, and chunk overlap is 30. So it will try to overlap 30 characters from the previous chunk, and the length function is len. So even though we define chunk size as 150, it will forcefully try to chunk whenever there is a separator with this pattern, right? So that's how you can use Character Text Splitter. And this Character Text Splitter is best for preserving context, right? Thank you.